So why do we get annoyed at other tourists? Why is it annoying when you find yourself in a really touristy place?
All right, we're on our way to the volcano.
Yes. So something we were talking about at breakfast, which was amazing. Cue montage here. Something we were talking about at breakfast is tourists. Dusty and I grew up in Florida, so we grew up in a tourist place, and we were talking about how we feel about tourists.
It's not positive.
And what is the difference between a tourist and a traveler?
I don't know. I don't buy that.
I buy it.
I don't think that's a thing.
I think it's a thing.
The only difference that sounds like to me is the traveler is presumptuous and thinks they're better than the tourist.
That's exactly right. We are better. So anyway, let's go to the volcano and let's chat about that there. Shall we? Cue driving montage.
Time lapse.
Cue driving time lapse montage. Okay, we're in the secondary forest and the temperature has just dropped. It's a lot more dense here and quiet, a little bit spooky. Actually, it's really, really peaceful. here's a question that I have for you. How do you feel that living in Florida influenced how you feel about tourists?
They were other. Like they were interlopers coming into your state to get their Mickey Mouse fix and then leave.
It's interesting that you say that, because I do feel like I grew up with this sense that the tourists were other people, right? And also because my family didn't really take a lot of family vacations. All of our vacations were to go back to West Virginia to see family.
Right.
So we were so rarely tourists, but we were always around tourists. So I do feel like that's an interesting point. Like, you get used to the idea that tourists are other people. And something we were talking about is this idea that, like, when we see other tourists, we're automatically like, oh, tourists! And it's like, but we're tourists too. Like, we're okay, so it just started pouring rain when we were like a kilometer away from the car. And so we were booking it back. We all got soaked, and I had an umbrella in the car. So anyway, we drove over to the other part of the park, and I thought we'd talk about the difference between a tourist and a traveler, which Jesse doesn't believe there's a difference, but I do. So let's go have this chat. Okay, so is there a difference between a tourist and a traveler? I'll tell you my difference, and then you can tell me what you think.
Okay.
All right, so I think that a tourist is somebody who goes to a place for the photo op, who gets the tacky souvenir, gets the ugly t-shirt. They don't try to speak the language. They don't learn anything about the place or the customs. There's no like attempt at some type of like cultural experience. It's just like, go to the thing that everybody does, take the picture, buy the souvenir, go home.
Okay.
Okay, new bench. To me, a traveler is somebody who is more conscious, tries to speak the native language even if they're horrible at it. Like, at least takes the time to learn please and thank you and excuse me, and those kind of phrases. Someone who bothers to learn the customs of the area, someone who bothers to do a little bit of research about the place. Yeah! Somebody who cares about the impact that they're leaving. Whereas I feel like the tourist is just oblivious to that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure if there is a real functional difference between the two of those. Like, until the traveler is like to the level where they're like fluent in the language, I'm not sure if it's really all that different. Because like, it's nice to be conscientious and stuff, but it doesn't mean that you are perceived any differently by the people there necessarily. You may think you are, and feel better about yourself and feel superior to the other travelers, tourists, but I don't know. Like, I feel like we're trying to do a better job, but we are just total American doofuses like 99% of the time. So I really don't know if we seem any different to the people who live in these places.
I feel like making an effort is appreciated in most places. I feel like, especially as Americans or US citizens, whatever, guys, that's for another video, we generally do not have a good reputation in the world for being conscientious tourists or travelers. And maybe there is no difference between a tourist and a traveler. Maybe it's just tourists, you can either have good manners or bad manners. Maybe it really comes down to that.
I think you're told that making an effort makes a difference, you know, but that could be a myth. There's no way to know. Like, there's so much, you know, incorrect information, as we have found from, you know, listening to various people about stuff. Like, is it okay to over-tip? Is it not okay to over-tip? You know, there's all this, like, you want an opinion on something, you will find any opinion that there is. And
That's true.
So the idea that, oh yeah, making an effort matters, I don't know. I've been laughed at a whole lot more than I have seemed people be appreciative that I'm trying. Like, I just feel like, I don't know, I'm not sure.
Yeah, yeah. I guess we do tend to pay attention to the opinions and stuff that we read online that we like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we're just walking down the lake and we see some toucans flying around, hanging out in trees, like you do. Just toucans. Just here, being alive in this place. That's crazy.
Did you get a shot of that toucan?
No.
It's because it was a toucant.
On to dinner. Lunch.
Says it's that way.
Lunch, dinner.
Yep.
Okay, so if you don't think that there is a difference between a tourist and a traveler, do you think that there's a difference between a good tourist and a bad tourist?
Sure, yeah. I mean, there's ones who are gonna annoy the locals more than others, I would imagine.
Yeah. I think what kills me is like the arrogance of somebody coming to somebody else's country, somebody else's city, and then acting like everything's about them. You know?
Yes.
So
right.
Here's a question. Is there a difference between a tourist and an expat? And if so, what is that difference?
I mean, an expat lives in a foreign country, a tourist does not.
Yes. Okay, you have correctly identified the actual dictionary definition of the two words.
Very good at that. An expat is a really committed tourist.
So why do we get annoyed at other tourists? Why is it annoying when you find yourself in a really touristy place, right? Because there is this thing where there is a certain type of tourist, or as we like to call ourselves, travelers, who we tend to stay away from areas that have a lot of tourists. Or a lot of other travelers, whatever you want to say.
Right. Like people won't go to San Miguel.
Right.
Because it's too westernized.
Right.
Thing.
Too touristy.
Here.
Yeah, it's really raining now. Well, because
there's
the
water
clouds
falling
are
out
dropping
of the
water.
sky.
I think there's also this feeling that tourists, as we travelers consider them, are generally really bad at finding good places. They tend to find the really obvious places, the things that are flashier, or close to the hotel, or like with menus in English. And those things are never the best. Those are never the best restaurants, etc. And so when I see like a lot of tourists, I get like worried. Oh no, this restaurant is not going to be any good. Or, oh, is this place really good because everybody's here? You know what I mean?
Right, it's like when you see a lot of locals, you know a place is good.
Yes.
When you see a lot of tourists, you assume it's bad.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that does come from being in Florida, because you know
Right.
where the people who are not from that area go. And you know that that is never really like the best stuff.
Because you know the food is psychotically overpriced and not good.
Right.
So you walk by and you see all the people eating there and you're like, hee hee hee, those tourists don't know any better. That's
Right.
terrible food they're eating. But that thing where you're like, oh, they don't know the best thing.
Yeah.
Is it possible this is a little classist?
Yes.
You're like,
Yes.
Maybe this is like...
I think that is absolutely possible.
I don't know, you know? I just feel like this might potentially come across a little bit classist, that's all.
I think we need to do a whole other video about how travelers are often accidentally very, very classist. I think we as a group tend to say and do things that are extremely classist.
The street that we are on suddenly becomes a one-way road at an intersection.
Right here. All right, and then it should be right on your left up here.
Right? On your left?
Right on your left.
What kind of direction is that?
Okay, we're here at the restaurant. This is a Peruvian Chinese restaurant in Costa Rica. We're gonna find out.
Whatever all that means.
This is a wonton filled with vegetable curry that's like a coconut milk curry. It is so good. This was one of the fusion Peruvian plus Chinese dishes. It's got bell peppers and like a sweet and sour sauce. It's so good. And I can't wait to try Jesse's.
I got one attractive dish there, didn't I?
Did.
This could also be said about Erin. So, this is a Peruvian dish. It's like beef milanesa on top of pasta, and there's peanuts involved, peanut sauce or something. I don't even know. Very good.
Okay, if you come to La Fortuna, you have got to go to this restaurant. The food was amazing, the service was amazing, and before we left, the guy actually brought some chocolate cake for Harper to help, let's say, motivate her to finish her food. And she was super excited about that. Cannot recommend this place highly enough. Go there.
I don't think this lake is real. You know, just like the moon landings and the globe Earth. Oh wait, no, sorry, I'm not actually a flat earther or a moon conspiracy theorist. I just was hoping to get some more market segment for my wife's channel. I'm a good husband.